What I had was the freedom of choice to empower myself to get out and do these things and just keep going no matter what. I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to be around my family more. I had a choice to stay with IBM in 2007. I had a choice to quit and burn the boats and leave. I chose to leave. I had a guy come in one time. He's like, I make $3 million. I'm like, great. How much did you keep? And we went through this conversation. He didn't want to tell me. And about 30 minutes finally into the conversation, he admitted he spent $2.9 million. And it wasn't the perfect journey. That's for darn sure. I think I pivoted about 25 times and I've got enough failures to fill this room in that process, right? And I even failed in a marriage and went bankrupt once. Okay, so what?
Welcome to Dream Start Own. I am your host, Edgar the Connector, and today we have a special guest, Neil Twa. He's one of the first guests I have from outside the community of Owners Club and Pace Morby's Sub 2 group. So it's going to be exciting to just break out of the norm and meet Mr. Neil Twa and his entrepreneur that he's going on. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm honored to be the first guest outside of your group. That's pretty cool.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. A little nervous, but we'll make it happen.
Make it happen.
Be uncomfortable to grow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Change is important.
Exactly. So you're a founder of the company called Voltage, and
yes,
you helped launch thousands of private label brands on Amazon FBA.
Yeah. It's been a fun ride. It's about 12 years now. Focused on that particular activity of building and growing, discovering and scaling and launching, even exiting those businesses. And now we're in acquisition mode too. So we're actually acquiring them as well.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So private label, what does that mean for the general audience?
In essence, we build a product that is for us within our trademark, within our intellectual property that we have manufactured and then shipped into the United States or through the United States, depending upon where it's manufactured, but it becomes our product. So consider it like a Nike or something, right? Or Toyota. We build brands, right? As opposed to like retail arbitration or shop your way to wealth or wholesale or those kinds of models, which I would have done a long time ago, but would say more like side hustle hobby businesses. Whereas we're building real brands with P&Ls and fundamentals of business, 3 to 5 years, and then the intrinsic value of that brand becomes a saleable asset.
Okay, fantastic. So better to do your own brand, and then you can control a lot of more of the pricing and your margins than picking up somebody's brand.
That's right. I control the market, the pricing, the growth, the elasticity of supply and demand, the movement of the market, whether it goes up or down. We can control that pricing and variable in the marketplace. And of course, creating something with that kind of value means that it is an asset for us. As opposed to just flipping somebody else's product, we create that brand with multiple products within it, and that valuation of the product in the marketplace as well as the company increases pretty dramatically.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. And then quality control as well, I assume.
Yeah, all of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Neil's, your companies have generated over $100 million in sales, and you recently published a book called Almost Automated Income with FBA. Is that right?
Yeah, it's basically, the strategy guide. I think some of it we'll cover today, probably, in terms of the steps required from, what the heck do I sell, which is the biggest question so many people have, right? Who do I sell it to? How do I make money? How do I keep profits? What are the pros and cons of the market? That's kind of covered in that book. It's really a strategy to making sure you understand the business so that you might do it when you're on the side. Like I have people who do W-2 jobs and that kind of stuff. I have entrepreneurs who are running other verticals of business, but we can show you kind of how to take this and start it up in a way where it doesn't dominate that component. But the end game is that you want to do this full time later on due to the amount of automation, growth, and the scalability of it without the necessary cost of scale that so many other businesses have.
Excellent. And for some of the listeners, I think the first 10 people that use the code, I'll put the description below, get a copy of his book.
Yeah. First 10 people can get a free copy. Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your team for that. Appreciate it so much. So if we've wondered what it really takes to launch a profitable online store, you're going to help us open our eyes with that, right?
Let's dig in a little bit, right? So really, at the end of the day, again, the component of a business like this comes down to ensuring the profitability on one hand, while providing a great product to the market that wants it, it's in demand, and they crave that product from you. one of the things we don't do is try to invent products. I've done that in the past. I invented myself all the way into bankruptcy. So that's not recommended, right? I've flipped products for profit. I even ran an organization with 12 employees and 20,000 square foot of warehouse up to 8 figures. And we shut all that down because there was just too much people, too much overhead, too much cost. And, net profit was much lower than the brands we're building and the way that we've done it, and continue to grow it out. I call it my crime of opportunity, which is I tell my kids is one of those learning lessons. You fail forward and you don't necessarily repeat those things. And so when people want to do those kinds of things, I'm telling you, man, be careful. You'll just trade more time for money, right? What we found was there's a better way to do it through brand building. And if I leverage the first sales channel, Amazon FBA, I get to put my products in front of like 200 million people who are doing nothing but buying products in 30 seconds or less. That's the whole reason they're there. You may have got your microphone you mentioned was newer, which sounds awesome, or other products in your house that came from Amazon. And we use that infrastructure to have our products delivered to folks like you who order them through Amazon. With that, I don't have to touch the product. It gets delivered by the guys that show up at your house, or they pick up the returns or whatever. So that creates systems of automation, right? Allowing me to reduce time on those areas so that I can focus my areas towards what the heck do I sell. So in terms of the product, I think one of the first things a lot of people have is a misnomer, maybe a myth or whatever, is there's no good products to sell. The saturation is a problem. I heard friends that tried to sell on Amazon and didn't make it work. Amazon takes all your money. Amazon will steal your products, and so on and so on and so forth, right? And there is a bit of truth to each of those things, but the truth always has a gray area, a little asterisk behind it, right? Because of why that person's perception or what they're doing, or ultimately maybe why they're trying to sell some other thing, like, oh, don't do Amazon, but come over here and buy my Facebook ads marketing course, right? Because they're telling you, something for a reason of conflict. Don't buy into all of that, right? The truth is a physical products business needs multiple sales channels no matter what. You sell a product to the market, you want to put it in front of as many people as you can. So don't hate, the player, hate the game, or hate the game, don't hate the player, I think is the saying. Because Amazon's just a player in that game, right? It's one channel of sales. And it's the one I like to take new people to, because usually it is a trouble finding a product to sell or to make sure that people will see it so you can actually make it sell, right? Like getting eyeballs on the offer. And with Amazon literally moving 6,000 units a minute on average, that's a lot of product, right? They're moving $700 billion a year in product. And they're also 49% of all the US market share for e-com sites. So there's a huge market share there. So when I get people not to focus on the delivery aspects, the mechanical components of this, it's the focus on the business, the person, and the avatar, and answering the question, what the heck do I sell? This is a lot easier, dude, because we have a lot of data behind us now. And so when I teach people to do this, I'm like, no, don't sell that, sell this. And they're like, why? It's like, well, here's the experience. Here is the profitability of that particular product, something we call our green light process. And this product has higher demand than this one over here. And it may not look like that, but let me show you the nuances, because it literally comes out in the data. So a lot of decision making from the product isn't what do I feel about the product, right? It is what the market is demanding from a product. And can I give the market one of those products, right? And if I can give them one of the products and they love it, well, guess what? They might buy more of it from me. And if I give them that product, they'll probably want this one because they got connected to the brand. You're the same way, man. We all are, right? To some degree, if I say all, Apple iPhone users are fanboys and all Android people suck, people out here are going to get pissed off, right? You see them fighting in the comments about that stuff all the time, right? If I'm like, well, the Yankees are great and the Atlanta Braves suck, people are going to get pissed off, right? Because we have brand-driven affinity to who we are. So we're going to build a brand, right? But we're going to make sure that we find a product that is profitable in the data first. And then we're going to get that product manufactured to the best of the ability as quality as possible so people won't return it and it won't break and all that crap. We have to do a great product. And we're going to sell it into a market where there's already demand. And we're going to make sure that when we add up all the numbers, we do all the business, that when I sell a unit of that product, it is profitable. We call it going by the numbers. You can't sell a product in volume and make up for it with less profitability. And what I mean by that is if I sell a product 1,000 units in a month, but I make $1 in profit, I made $1,000 in profit. So the volume vanity metric of all the hopium guru YouTubers out here is, well, sell 2,000 next month, sell more volume. And it's like, well, you sold 2,000 units, but if you still have $1 in profit, were you actually profitable? No, you probably lost half of that dollar in the next month. You sold 2,000 units, but you made 50 cents on $1. That's not really sexy. I would rather sell 1,000 units with $10 in profit or $20 in profit or $150 in profit. Wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah,
So what we want
definitely.
to do is focus on the right numbers, not just the revenue and vanity metrics. You hear so many people talk, oh, I made $3 million in Amazon. How many did you keep? I had a guy come in one time. He's like, I made 3 million. I'm like, great. How much did you keep? And we went through this conversation. He didn't want to tell me. And about 30 minutes finally into the conversation, he admitted he spent $2.9 million on that. In a $3 million revenue, he grossed 100,000 before taxes.
Wow.
Right. So he probably made around 60 grand. So that's a lot of work and a lot of volume for a little bit of profitability. And that's one of the myths that gets, fallen into this model. So and you hear it online a lot, right? People are like, they suck all my money and Amazon takes my fees. Maybe you guys have heard that. Maybe you haven't. I'm telling you now, you go check on it. You're going to find out real quick, right? People hate on it. Why? Because they choose products that aren't profitable. Now they think they're profitable because, hey, Neil, it has $4 in profit. That's got profit in it. Absolutely, man. But after your cost and other things based on what's called net profit, like what falls out the bottom, not the gross profit, you'll suddenly find you've got other costs to stack on top of that $4 that you didn't consider. And you might actually be making closer to $2.50 profit per, right? And the problem with that becomes you now feel the need to make up for the lack of profit by pushing more volume. And instead of pushing more products out into the market, you try to push more volume on one product. And that's where most people fail. So we will have to launch 5 products to figure out which 1 or 2 of them literally rise to the top. Now we need to make sure that every product has more than $10 in profit per unit. Why? I need to pay myself. I want a business to grow. I want more marketing. I don't want to be skimming off the bottom, right? So in a brand, we don't marry our products. Okay. There are plenty of products in the market to go borrow from a demand perspective. You still with me so far? I know I'm moving really fast through this. So you can slow me down and like put a bit of time out on me and like, ask questions, right?
I've gone through a little bit of FBA. I actually started way back by myself. I would go to, my wife loves going to Marshalls and TJ Maxx, and I would go and look at things like, hey, this looks in the price, and I would check the price,
Yeah.
and then I would sell it on Amazon.
Yeah.
I thought
Okay.
about making a business way before I even knew it was a big thing.
Yeah.
And then,
Well, but you should have stuck it out a little bit. Maybe
Mhm.
not. Maybe you're doing something better now. I don't know. But I stuck it out because I got hooked. It was like a little dime crack bag. It's like, man, the first time that first one came in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can make money doing this. This is crazy. Like our first product was a flipping product as well. And we thought we'd arbitrage some product. And we found this protein drink comes in a big container, like a 2-pound thing or whatever. And it was the dry protein veggie smoothie thing. You got like 50 years worth of vegetables in like one scoop, right? Remember those things?
wow.
They still
Yeah.
sell them in like green. Yeah, yeah. So we get on the website for the vendor and there's like a 40% off coupon. And we're like, oh, check that out. There's like 40% off here. And we looked over at Amazon and we're like, hey, we can jump on that listing and we can sell that product at their retail price point and with a 40% margin. So we go in and there, he checked the cart and my partner comes back and he goes, I kept adding it up until there was finally 200. Apparently that's the whole inventory. So I bought all 200.
Wow.
So we took that product, we flipped it to Amazon and we had like a $6,000 in profit and we did it in about 24 hours. Like as soon as it went live on their listing, which like, and off we went and we're like, oh, we're hooked. So we go back to buy from that vendor. You know what they did? They stopped the sale of it. The vice president of marketing calls my partner, is like, why are you buying so much of our product? You can't possibly eat that much product in 5,000 years. Why are you doing that? He's like, well, I mean, I'm selling it on your listing on Amazon. And the lady, I swear to goodness, goes, you can't do that. And he's like, well, no, actually I can. She's like, no, you will never buy from us again. And he goes, what? He goes like, just give me a wholesale deal. Give me a vendor deal. Give me something like, to do. I made you money. You had a 40% coupon. We bought your entire inventory. What are you yelling about? And she's like, no, you can't do this. You can't do that. We're selling on Amazon. You can't sell on Amazon. So, but we were hooked, right? And that was a really dumb decision for that vice president of marketing for that company because we were selling the crap out of their product. Yeah. So that hooked us into the realization that there were all these products. And it also, we did it a couple more times. We did it with a small supplement run. There was an overrun. We did it with a number of products. But what we discovered was we were trading time for money again in that process because there wasn't any automation when we ran out of the units. We were done. We're like, we can't keep going. We want 2,000 units. We couldn't get them, right? So that's when we started into the branding of products that we knew were in demand like that, where we could get as much inventory as we could capitalize. And that's when things really started to unlock. So we launched a number of products in 2013. And by 2015, we had our first 7-figure business. In that 2 years, we really figured out what we were doing wrong, what we should be doing right, how to capitalize a business properly to 7 figures, which everybody thinks is super sexy, but you have to capitalize to get to 7 figures. That means you have to put more money into the business, right? Which means you're probably not taking money out in the first, 18 months or less to get that business to a growth cycle. So it starts really turning off profit. And that's part of what we discovered. But we're hooked because at this point, we just wanted to launch every product that made profitability. And that's where we developed what we call the green light process. And that was to make sure that every product we sold is profitable.
Green light process. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Great. 2 years to get it figured and make lots of numbers.
Yeah.
To figure out the ins and outs, get your SOPs going. And
pretty much got it optimized. Yeah. And I think it's very simple by terms now, very complicated at that time. So we had worked to try to systematize and simplify that process through technology and use. And now we've kind of caught up. AI has really helped us in the last 4 years with time compression and simplifying processes that take less people and can be automated in different ways. But at the end of the day, it's a conditioning aspect of all of those people listening right now to look at their lives and say, what was something I bought in the last 90 days that I could sell and even brand? And what you're going to find out is there's an abundance of products. You might have felt some scarcity or some questions. You might have heard some things. And if somebody's selling a $20, $27 product on Amazon right now, they're not making money, just to be very clear. Just like a lot of advertising companies are not making money with sub $50 products on Facebook ads because the cost for advertising has gone up enough that you have to really get in a $50 to $100 retail price point in order to make the kind of profits you want and to sustain it. It's the same problem on the direct to consumer side. On the Amazon side, we have cost and fees and storage and warehouse and all that stuff. So we want to make sure that they're profitable. It's the biggest metric to determine the success of the brand. And that's where our green light process came in. It took all the variables and it said, if this data from here is, good, then we need to know if we can manufacture it for profit. And then we test market that product. And the faster we test market, the sooner we find what's in demand. And then we simply follow the data, right? That's not rocket science, right? We follow the data. And to get in front of that data on Amazon is literally to get in front of a stream, a river of traffic and sales that are flowing 24/7, 365. Like it was making us money while we were sleeping. Like that's the holy grail, right? And that was, all the time, anytime people were buying products like crazy. And the more products we launched, the more money we started to make. And so it really became product agnostic, meaning it became not about which particular product I was passionate about. It became about the passionate people who wanted that product and could I put myself in front of them? And that's when this whole thing really changed. And that's why we've been able to build and grow now over 12 brands that we control personally, another 12 that we work with client direct relationships on. And these are companies now that we're also acquiring back. So that's part of working with me is to grow up the businesses to a point where we actually look to acquire them away from our clients under what we call a first right of refusal. Before they take them to market. And we're acquiring other brands we see now building up our portfolio and literally just taking over more market share in more segments of the business.
Fascinating. Brand building is one of the biggest things. That's one of the reasons I launched my podcast as well.
Yeah.
It's just to get out there and
yes.
To get known. If nobody knows you, you could have the best item in the world. But if you don't have branding behind it or advertising behind it.
So true, man. And I learned that the hard way because I went the invention route, which was also the patent route, and then never ended up selling the product due to some problems with getting it to market and, some unscrupulous partners that basically were taking funds. And by the time I ran out of money and I figured out what they were doing, this was game over because we never made it to the market. So we have this amazing product with patents that you still don't see in the marketplace. I see some competitors with variations that made it all the way to like Home Depot and Lowe's and stuff, but you don't see our product because it's literally setting shelved and ended up going bankrupt to learn that lesson. So I would highly recommend anybody listening to this. Innovation is the key. There are millions of product innovations. Like you might have a crock pot, right? Or grandma had a crock pot when you were growing up. I know mine did. And so what's an innovation to the crock pot? Right.
Pressure cooker. Was it the Instapot now?
Instapot. Yeah, bro. You're totally on it. Right. So Instapot was just like not your grandma's crock pot. That was just an innovation that made $1 billion company. Right. So what's the next company in line? It's Ninja, who's making air fryers.
Yeah. Right.
The air fryer was just an innovation against the Instapot with a smaller cook on the counter type of device. And they've been actually crushing it. So, innovation gives you all kinds of simple ideas to go to market to build, a Pepsi against a Coke that's already there, to build a Burger King against an existing McDonald's. There are a lot of those examples in the physical product world, more than I can even count. We've identified in our product pipeline what we want to launch for the next 1,000 products, because all of the data, the AI systems we use compile down now tell us these are the 1,000 products that are highest profitability in demand right now that we need to launch in our brands. So we literally just are picking them off and just going right down the line, and we're test launching the products. Another myth is that people need to order 5,000 units of a product to market. I don't know if you ever did that, but that is very bad. Do not do that. That is a terrible waste of money before you validate the market. You'll get into this product so far. There's the sunk cost fallacy, in which you will basically marry the product, love the product, and have to do anything possible to get that product in the market. And you'll fail doing it, right? The one-hit wonder products come along in your brand pipeline. As an example, Apple. Like, do you know what its highest selling, highest volume, highest profit product actually is?
No.
It's the AirPods.
Okay.
AirPods make more than the mobile phones and desktop combined. That's not their first product. So their hero product came along later on, right? And so they are an example of why we should build in what we call our 5x5 process. We get 5 products in the market to figure out which one averages at least 5 sales a day or 25 sales between them. And then the data will rise to the top. 1 or 2 of those products will organically take off, because being the marketer of the product and Amazon being the seller, audience, takes your payment, ships it out, does all of that stuff, being the marketer of the product means I need to identify exactly what the market will take from me profitably. If I put 5 products in there and I've done a good job of understanding my market, so my image, copy, graphics, videos, etc., all tie in really well to this engine, which is just a giant AI engine filing cabinet of data, right? Says, oh, we want, this audience wants your product, and you did a great job of helping us understand that. And now we see people are interested, and they're clicking and they're buying and they're adding to cart. We're going to start promoting you faster and faster because you are something our customer wants. We get that right, and this thing takes off extremely fast. So what am I actually doing, Edgar? I'm selling data to an AI engine, and I'm better at it than most people. And I've taught my people to be better at it than most people. I've taught them to be better because the AI engines power everything. They power the back end of the Instagram and TikTok and all these things that everybody's trying to write on in marketing and business, etc. Whether they're in real estate or they're in physical products or they're doing some other thing like, affiliate marketing, they're all writing the AI systems now, right?
Yeah.
We're just doing it with physical products. And I do that because I love the digital, but I also very much appreciate holding on to a physical object. And a physical object is always in demand regardless of the market. In other words, my hedge against inflation, my hedge against market changes, significant market changes we've seen in the last 5 years. You might have known about that if you were in the world in 5 years. And the tariff stuff that's happening now means we're hedging against those things by having physical products, right? And it creates an opportunity that as that brand goes out, those products become greater and greater value. We increase the profitability. We launch additional products. We find those hero products that will pop up. It's not the first or second product. It's usually the 4th, 5th, or 6th product. And when that product does pop off, while the other ones are selling, that one starts to sell like crazy. Right time in the market, right product inside of a growing brand. The profits are good. The marketing comes in. The people are like, yay. And the product just goes like crazy. And I mean by crazy in my world, okay, no one's beat the current record, and I think we've got the best one in the Amazon seller space as of now. Matt Harward and I grew his product brand in 8 months to $5 million a month. That's a verified case study. You can go check it out on my website. In his own words, verified case study. That's a fast move, man. He was doing $40 million a year run rate by year 2. We took that to $60 million a year on Amazon, and then he went over and with his skill set, which is originally where he came from, to Shopify side. You guys might be familiar with that, and started to build a Shopify site and built up $120 million in revenue on that end, became Arizona fastest growing top 5,000 Inc. in Arizona. On top of that, 60 million, had about a $200 million a year company running from original products off of Amazon. Now, if anybody thinks that's like old school, okay, there are 50 $100 million companies on Amazon as of 4 years ago. In the last 4 years, this is how fast it's moving, dude. This is why this opportunity right now is like better than I've seen since 2013. In the last 4 years, 50 more original companies have now made $100 million on Amazon. There's a total of $100 million companies on Amazon now. And it literally, that's how fast this jumped. The internet, the AI, the systems, the opportunity, the ability to get the data we need now that's actually from Amazon, telling me exactly which keywords, which niche, crossing that data, and it literally exposes inside of my Greenlight system which product is the Coke that needs a Pepsi competitor. And as long as it's profitable in Greenlight, I test launch it because the data says it's there, and the data is from Amazon, so I just launch it. It's like Jeff Bezos rolling up in his black Escalade and be like, "Here, bro, sell this product." I know it's going to work. Just trust me, because I'm getting the data from Amazon. So now they become a direct marketer, and the physical products is the connection to that. A lot of people get this reversed. Does that make sense? Like they think they have to come up with some wild product. They think they have to be Elon Musk to do this. You don't. I've taught 19-year-old high school dropouts, 17-year-old girls, and 76-year-old grandmas how to do this, and everybody in between. It really just gets down to that process. And once you discover that, you can sell anything to anybody in a box in 30 seconds or less, and you'll do it profitably with the right numbers.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon has so much data because they make it so easy for people to shop on there and get
So
that
much
stuff
data.
next day, same day.
It's an engine. It's a miracle that dang thing even works, bro.
Yeah.
Seriously. Sometimes I just marvel at the fact that the whole system works all together. And yeah, it's their customer and I'm leveraging their systems. And yes, pragmatically, there are negatives. Dumb things happen. We've never had a product stolen by Amazon, but we've had competitors do stupid stuff. When we, like one of the worst ones ever before they actually changed, and very quickly after they changed the rules on the review side, we had a supplement that within 24 hours had almost 1,000 negative reviews on it. Right. So they just firebombed our product listing. Now that's old school. That hasn't happened again because they set up the rules differently and it's not possible to do that. I've had bad actors in Amazon who I guarantee you, while I can't prove it in a court of law, took money in order to sabotage our company from the inside of Amazon. That's a bad actor. That's not Amazon as a company. Now they have been in a court of law because they had higher level people in the company who did some stupid stuff and jacked a guy's brand, and they got in a lot of trouble for it because they got in trouble for it. They should have. They had internal data and they used it against it, and that was absolutely wrong. And that's set a precedence that's always and all the time, and that is not true. What you will typically find is you run into a brand-to-brand competitor, and they don't like that you're taking their market share, and they're willing to do unethical things to jack around with you. For example, we just had a brand that started to do very well in the market. We're eating some market share in the pet niche. And a competitive product decided instead of just competing with us on brand, he would file a DCMA takedown request of the product. So what he did, jerk, was he went over, he copied our listing to his listing and then filed against it on Amazon and said, we copied his product. Now, we were able to prove through historical data and proof of record that he did that to us, and they reinstated our products. Okay, sorry, this was our mistake, right? The jerk did it again last week, right? So now it's tortoise interference. So I'm saying this was a bad move, dude. If you're listening to this, that was a really stupid thing to do. So he went in, we already proved we own the brand, the trademark, etc. Amazon reinstated all of us. We had the legalities behind us. And now this guy went and did it again. So those kinds of things are things in business that happen, right?
And that still hurts you because they take your listing off for a couple.
Now I got to come back online. He threw us into Amazon seller support hell, and now we have to prove that it's our product again, but we already proved it once before. Now we got to get legal involved to get this fixed and get the lawyers on the case. And I don't really like to do that because anybody wins at $500 an hour with lawyers, but we have to do it to defend our brand and get that product back in the marketplace. But now he's pissed us off. So he just decided to come piss in my pool. So now it's his problem, right? Yep. So this is not how we want to play games. But it happens. It happens everywhere. I've had a Shopify take our listings down off of their website too. If you think you're invincible, Shopify will take you offline too. Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, even TikTok. Okay, they'll take you offline too. So any platform that is not
Stripe.
yours. Yeah, dude, any platform you don't own holistically all the way down to the internet it's connected to, you can get shut down. So we got to break down all that crap. So we need to look at the opportunity. The opportunity is products are moving on Amazon faster than they have in last year. Okay. There are 5 billion impressions a month. With the tariff situation in the last 8 months, 300,000 sellers have fallen out of the marketplace and they haven't come back. So who's getting all the market share? All right, with the 5 billion impressions still happening every month, the demand isn't gone, but the sellers have decreased by 20%. There's a huge gap in products we wouldn't have tackled last year that we can go back and tackle with that existing demand for the product that was there. But the business owner who ran it couldn't capitalize it, got very afraid of the tariffs, didn't take care of the situation. That all changed again every 5 minutes of freaking things changing, right? And then they were unable to get the product back in time, right? So many of them just quit. That's bad business. They didn't set up their business right from the very beginning. So they floundered in the market and they did knee-jerk reactions and they dealt with problems incorrectly and they fell out of the market very fast. And the other thing about it is the side hustle hobby thing, this thing I started on, the thing you were mentioning, Amazon's terminating that at every chance it gets. They don't want you doing that on this platform anymore. They want to be seen as a branded platform producing high quality products in demand for their clients. They don't want to be seen as a Walmart or an eBay, low cost garage selling place, right? They want to be seen as the product brand online. And so they're kicking all those people off the platform. The gatings and ungating crap, the wholesale, the arbitrage, the product flipping, the jumping on listings, those days were 5+ years ago. Now they're just terminating accounts, right? Yep. You're done. And they will hold your money if you have any money. And guess what? You broke the terms of service, so you're out of luck. Really, I had a friend who did this and he was running the business and he's like turning around 20, 30,000 a month. They caught him. And they held the 30,000 because he violated the terms of service and there wasn't anything he'd do. He got a lawyer involved. They're like, dude, you broke the platform rules. It's setting right here. You don't get the money back. Well, he's pissed at them, but he broke the rules. Right. So we play ball in a private label way because it is the right way in not only the fundamentals of the business from profit and loss to growth, capitalization, upside potential with selling the business, but it's also playing by the rules in the platform because if you do, you win. You can have businesses that take off extremely fast. In 3-5 years, we've had businesses go 10 to 20 million in sales a year.
What does usually somebody need to take about funding wise to get started, something like that?
So most people are talking, we call that the team effort: time, energy, attention, and money. Time, energy, attention, and money. That's the 4 components of any business, no matter what you do. If you're going to get in real estate, you got to have all of those things, right? You're going to go Shopify anywhere else. You're going to start up a small business, a digital marketing agency. You're going to have to put this in place. Amazon. Okay. I can tell my people literally because of my processes and working with me, they can spend 15 to 20 hours a week using our systems, processes, and one-on-one support to go to market. You'd probably double that if you were doing it on your own because half would be execution and half is going to be learning on your own to figure out what you should do. Okay. To go to market, I typically have my people say in the first year, the first real 6 months, you need a minimum of 25K to compete in the market now. Okay. The market is more complex, which means the barrier of entry has got to be higher. And to sell the products that have the greatest profitability, okay, which by the way, on Amazon, the average order value is $69. So if I'm selling a $27 product, I'm not actually hitting their average order value. So I need to sell a product $50 to $100 in retail price point, okay, which means I'm going to have a little bit more capitalization. But here's how we get around that. When you go to that 25K to deploy into your business, you're deploying it in small tranches, small amounts. So you're going to deploy 2,000 to 3,000 per product test to find out if the market wants the 100 or 200 unit test from you. And that when you do that test, you can, number 1, sell the product. Sales fixes everything. Okay. Number 2, the product isn't broken. People don't hate it. They're not leaving negative reviews. And in 1 to 200 units, you're going to have enough statistical relevance to project forward up to 12 months how fast you can sell that through. Could you hit 4 inventory turns in a year, which is where we get the language cash on cash value. Okay. And how fast I'm going to be able to capitalize that beyond the 25, knowing that that sales market test will turn into profitability when I order 1,000 units. So if the market test says go and it projects right forward for 12 months and I see all these good things happening, I'm going to order 1,000 units and I'm going to go into a product launch. That is putting good money after good data. So what happens, Edgar, if the 100 or 200 units doesn't sell as fast? All right. Or doesn't sell at all? First, I'm going to optimize, right? Because I got the listings, the copy, and the graphics wrong. I might have missed the avatar altogether and they don't want to buy my product, right? I'm going to take those tweaks. I'm going to optimize those variables. And then I'm going to see if I can increase the sales. If the sales start to go great, then I simply just optimized what the art market wanted, my limit, my copy, my conversions. Great. I can now project that's going to work. Here's where people think it fails. They put up one listing and they go, it doesn't sell, the whole thing sucks. That is not how it really works. You optimize your growth. So part of your time and energy and attention are making sure you do the steps correctly to understand who you're selling to, so that when you put it online, people really understand the value of what it is they're buying. And now here's the fun part. Amazon is a demand capture platform. People didn't come there to browse unless it's like the 2 days before Prime and a week before the holidays, right? That's when everybody browses. The rest of the time, they're in full-on buying mode in like 30 seconds or less, bro. They're going after it all the time. So what does that mean? It means I need to get my image, copy, and language and understand how to translate that as a brand builder into demand capture language. In other words, I reinforce the buying decision they were already making before they got there. So when you, Edgar, went to go get your microphone, if you went to Amazon, I think you did probably, you already had a buying decision in mind. You may have heard another podcaster. You might have got a recommendation. You might have heard the brand. You might have asked AI, hey, what's the best, microphone for podcasters? And then you would have came up with the realization that it was the Shure BV7, 70 or whatever that version is. I'm not sure which one you have, but it's going to be like, well, that's the one. So you go to Amazon and you're like, okay, which one am I ordering? How fast can it get here? You've already made a lot of the buying decision. And today, AI with its shopping agents is going to do a lot of that for you, right? It's even going to help you order later. Would you like me to order this from your Amazon account? You're going to be like, yeah, thanks, great. And he'll go, oh, good, it'll be here in 2 days, right? The whole thing is changing to speed at which this is accumulating, okay? So what we see is a huge opportunity to deploy that. Now, 25K should turn probably into 100,000 in year one if your business is growing really well. Why? You're going to be putting back more and more capitalization to inventory based on what's selling so that you can feed the beast. In a physical product world, we feed the beast, okay? And other places, you do that too. If you're in digital marketing, you need more assets. If you're in real estate, you need more doors. If you're in e-commerce, you need more inventory. That is the speed by which the system turns into a juggernaut. Okay, hear me when I say this. Amazon, you can hit 5% of the market share that's available for your market in year one. You can hit 20% in year two and 40% in year three. It is a 3-year snowball to scale. Okay. If you plow back all that back into inventory in years 1 through 2, you will see scale in years 3 through 5. Okay. You have to be willing to do that. You have to have the capitalization to do that. And that is the opportunity cost. Can you do it smaller? Absolutely, you can. Of course, you can get into it smaller. You still need to follow the same process. And it's going to take you a little bit longer to get to that success than if you're going to deploy it a little bit quicker, especially when you get enough product in the market a little faster. You can then deduct more quickly which shape, size, variation, product type the market wants from you, and you ensure its profitability. You can do that. It'll just take you a little longer to figure it out.
Amazing. Upswing potential. So if a employee, a W-2 worker has 40 hours that they're working on their regular job,
Sure.
how much time will it take them to focus on this part of the business?
Yeah, so I've got literally doctors, lawyers, state reps, stay-at-home moms. I got W-2 guys high up in their corps or somewhere in between. I got pharmacists, right? They're dentists. They're doing all of these different things. So 15 to 20 hours a week is literally what it takes to learn and execute the steps of the playbook, right? Why? Because you don't have to go through and discover whether or not these things you should be doing and these things you should not. There's literally a checklist to go down the checklist. As you step through the checklist, I have coaches who are gone through that checklist 3, 4, 5 years ago who have already built companies, are successful with this process, who are now coaching you through the same steps they took. So they will work one-on-one with my people to ensure that this actually happens. So you can take less time, you can have one-on-one calls, and you can ensure that you're getting checked on the product, the brand, the type, the market, and everything before it goes out. And even when it goes out, how to optimize the marketing. And when that marketing is optimized, how to scale it. So I work with my people over 12 months to get to 100K in net profit. And I have a skin in the game deal. I put up 10 grand to ensure that they actually do that. So I have a very strict application process that if I'm putting 10K on the line, they're going to put some money on the line too. But in 12 months to 18 months, we're going to get a going concern that is a life-changing event in 3 to 5 years, because I'm going to hopefully be the life-changing event. When that business occurs, I want to buy it. I got a private equity group that's buying companies. We're operating those companies. And so I know where my pipeline is coming from when people build these companies. So if they win, we all win. So that's why I'm very strict about who gets involved. And I have a buy-in to ensure that the tire kickers don't get involved. It's less than a franchise. It's less than buying a company, but it's enough to make sure that they have some skin in the game. So they will spend the next 2-3 years building something that will literally, and has for a number of my people and myself doing this process, become a life-changing opportunity. I own 55 acres in the country now. I homeschool my daughters, and my wife lives here, and they're out hanging out right now, and I get to be around them. And this is a lifestyle that this business model has allowed me to achieve. And I only work now with those who I choose to work with. And I'm a course, I don't have a program, don't care about that shit. That's not really where I'm at. I want to see my true operators who will go the distance. So I'm very selective with who I work with. We do our brands, we do our acquisition. The operators that run my company, just to be very clear why I also do that beyond buying the companies when they build up, is I'm looking for the right operators. So I've put 300 people in here since 2019. It's pretty small. Okay. And out of that 300, I've been able to rise up 5 operators. And those 5 operators run my 12 to 24 brands.
That's extraordinary that you're doing that and you're able to help out people that way and give people jobs and then have them be part of your company by them going through all the different processes.
Yeah. They
One
become the
thing that
CEO operators of their own company.
fantastic. What is your goal for the next 5 years with what you're building
Yeah.
and the people, the businesses, and your company in general?
Well, I plan to have at least 50% of those 12 brands hit 5 million a year in revenues in 5 years, or a minimum 1 million in profit. I plan to have acquired 5 companies through our private equity group. One of them should be closing. We should get notice today from the closer in the a process for the bank approval today. So we're all on kind of bated breath, hoping that goes through. Everything's made it all the way to the last mile. There doesn't appear to be anything that's going to slow it down. It's about an $8 million acquisition. And hopefully you should know today that that's going to happen. So we plan to acquire 4 more of those. So we're in pipeline looking for 4 additional. I've got 2 more acquisitions from my builders that are very interested in selling their companies by the end of this year. So that might be 2 more of those. And we're closing on a small one right now, about $250,000 a year in revenue from one of our internal clients where we're buying that business through a partnership. And then my goal is really to see how many veterans I can employ. So our private equity group is called Patriot Growth Capital. It is a veteran-owned, veteran-backed, veteran-managed business. The growth capitalization through e-commerce is one methodology they're using to deploy veterans, and Voltage is a part of that. They helped 16,000 veterans last year in other ways through helping with support, both on and off, through transition, through jobs, through training and other education necessary to help the veterans. And when we buy these companies, we are hiring veterans in to those companies, and we're looking to see who rises up to the top of the possibility of being a CEO operator, and then they'll have the opportunity of acquiring that company away from us after 5 years. And we're going to build a little war chest out of each of these companies to help fund the acquisition of that in year 5 for the right operator, and it could be a life-changing event for that veteran and their family.
That's exactly what I was thinking. A life-changing event for those
Yep.
veterans.
That's
Actually,
right.
this week in general, on Tuesday, I went to a company, a meetup for fundraising for a company called Invetment, because they're helping out vets. And
I love that. That's a cool name.
yeah, at first I was like, why did they name it that? Because I wasn't sure about the whole process. I was invited and I showed up and I was like, oh, okay. So I'm not a veteran, but I'm a Gold Star family. I lost my brother in 2006
I'm
in the
very
war,
sorry
Marine.
to hear that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we learned there that 200,000 people get released from the military every year. So they're veterans.
Yeah.
And that a lot of them become unhoused. And
Yes.
the people that are unhoused are 13 times more likely to commit suicide
Yes, sir.
than the ones that have a home to go to, a place to live, the bed to go put their head in. Yeah. We interviewed one on this Tuesday. Wednesday morning. We went to some coffee and donuts. One of the guys I work with, Brian Madsen, shout out. He's actually housing veterans, and that's one of his initiatives. Excellent. His goal is to help out 49,000 in the next couple of years.
Good for him.
And
it's amazing.
One of the biggest things that stuck out that the guy told us, he goes, when he's in service, he has his team behind him to help him stand up, to pick himself up, no matter how many times he falls. But once they get released and they're out in the civilian world, they don't have that team anymore.
That's right.
They're by themselves.
Yeah, that's right.
That was just like something that really hit me hard. So
yeah,
for you to employ veterans as well with that, the Patriot Growth That's amazing. Can people do that remotely, or is it all have to
It
go
will
to
be
some place?
remotely. Yeah. Unless there's particular roles at the warehouses or stuff that with companies we're buying, for example, there's a role that will open up at the warehouse in California for the company we're acquiring. And we intend to hire a vet into that position. And then as we look to get operations in place, we'll be training up an individuals. We'll be going through an application process to apply for a job to be trained into an operator in the company, which will be a virtual position, and then train them up into a CEO over 5 years. And that's an initiative that every level of the business will have an opportunity for different places to train in and get those veterans a mission. I have a number of friends from Navy SEALs to operators to one of my partners is a brigadier general. My father was a two-tour Vietnam vet on a destroyer in the Navy, in the U.S. Navy. I planned to go. I didn't have the honor of serving, but I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I dropped out of my plan for college was to go be a fighter pilot. So when I got to my 12th grade, I went and did the test to fit in the F-16E, and I couldn't fit. As it turns out, at 6'5", I have all my height from my waist up, and with the helmet on, couldn't close the canopy. So that was game over. And they're like, well, you can go work on them. You can go fly the transport planes, get to try that out. And I'm like, dude, I wanted to go fast. I was into the air. That's like people want to be a firefighter. They want to go to NASA and be an astronaut. I was like, man, I want to be a fighter pilot. Like nothing else is going to succeed. That was it. And so I'm like, well, now what? So my fallback was to go to college because I didn't have the honor of doing that. And that's what I wanted to do was that or nothing. And so I didn't have the honor, but I have a lot of friends and acquaintances and family who've served. And, our friends, good friends, of mine, Jonathan and Zach, who are both vets, run and operate that component of the company and worked very closely with them over 2 years to get to the point where we are now. Kissing a lot of frogs to find the right companies that would support the profit side and potential to grow, so we can support the veterans as a part of that and as a really cool initiative. That I'm very focused on now. So as I look for operators and those who work, and as I do podcasts like this, just to be very clear with anybody who might still be listening to me, which I appreciate greatly, and hopefully for you, it's a good thing for your podcast to do this. But it is really just those who are serious, about building a company, about building a brand, about building an asset with us that in the future might turn into other project opportunities to do profit shares, to get invested in the lives of the veterans through that initiative, to build more companies, more brands, even acquire them. My people go for 3, 5, 7 years with us. Some of my people have been around for quite a long time because we invest a lot in keeping them for a long time. So I work with the right people. And that's what I'm here to do, is find that unicorn who's like, hey, I heard that guy. This is the moment. When they say the mentee is ready, the mentor will appear. And so I don't always expect everybody to feel as excited about this as I am on these calls, but I hope that one person who's listening to this really feels the value today and might reach out and have a conversation, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, we don't have to change the world, but we can change one person's world. And
I can help who I can, man. I wish I could help everybody, but I can't. And the truth is, that's why I don't do courses and programs, because if you're trying to scale at that level, you simply cannot provide the level of support that we provide. Constant 24/7 available communications, one-on-one calls, as much as they need a week for 12 months. We're highly available to the process of growing them into CEO operators in their own company so they can become a force to reckon with. And it's a better way over a longer period of establishing it. So my 5-year goal is to get the next round of people into very successful businesses who can support the mission that Patriot Growth Capital has and can support the mission of growing these companies and brands.
Very good vision. I look forward to it. Look forward to you succeeding in that, and especially helping out those veterans and even just the people. One part of the podcast, The Dream Start Own, you're going to help a lot of people with the own process, because so many people get the business started that ends up just being another job, and you having the system of procedures in place will help people with owning their time and being able to have their 50 acres and have their kids at homeschooling and spending more time with them instead of spending so much time on the business.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I hear my kids coming in right now. So after this, I'm going to go hang out with them. And that's one of the blessings I get to have of my own time management. And truthfully, we all do, right? At the end of the day, we have certain choices. We have certain things we live by. In my time, I've come to realize, after being on my own for 18 years, there are 5 fundamental things that are very important to me. The 5 F's, and no, it's probably not the one you're thinking of. The first one is faith. If I have no faith, then I'm nothing at the end of the day. I tell my family and I tell my kids, Christ-centric first in everything they do, and the rest of it will work itself out. Family and friends, you've got to have those one way or another. I've had friends that were closer than family. And some people have family that are closer than friends. You need that support. You need that group. You really need those people, or you need to be that person for somebody else. Very, very important. Then it's finances, right? Finances empowers those first three to even happen, to be a part of anything you're doing, a lifestyle by design, or changes you want to make now or in 2 or 3 years to get away from doing the things you're doing now. Build a business maybe of your own and see that opportunity for your generation, for your next generation, for people you can support around you and your family or friends. And finances are required for that, which means we need to put them to work because you can't save your way to wealth. So at the end of the day, we've got to invest the dollars we have. We need to get them to working. We need to do it in the ways where we feel like we can make the most impact. And at the end of that is freedom. We all have the freedom. I have a choice to be here today. You have a choice to be here today. We all have a choice to do anything. I had a choice to stay with IBM in 2007. I had a choice to quit and burn the boats and leave. I chose to leave. I had that freedom. Out of it came consequences. It wasn't the easiest ride, and it wasn't the perfect journey. That's for darn sure. I think I pivoted about 25 times, and I've got enough failures to fill this room in that process, right? And I even failed in a marriage and went bankrupt once. Okay, so what? The end result is that when you know how to make money, you can make money in different ways. For me, I've discovered that in physical products, I know how to make money. And so I'm going to keep repeating that process until I get good with it. And the freedom to do that is why I choose to do it, as others choose to do what they do. You have a choice at the end of the day, no matter what anybody tells you. I had a choice to do, and I made choices that were sometimes hard. One of them, was leading up to the choices that went too far that ended up with the bankruptcy. And one of those was feeding my family and not paying for the car. And so one night they got the car at 10 o'clock and took it out of the garage. No more car. Okay. You have freedom, but you have choices. I think everybody forgets that. They forget they have that choice. You don't have to stay married. You don't have to stay at the job. You don't have to do anything. You have a freedom to choose it all. Of course, you have the consequences. You just have to weigh the risk against the reward. And I think a lot of us miss that. We feel like we have no choice. We feel like we have no freedom. And the truth is, we have all the freedom in the world.
You mentioned leaving IBM in 2007. What made you? I mean, IBM is a huge company.
Yes, sir.
Back then, when they were making computers. Now I don't hear much about them. So
they're out there.
For a good time. But what made you make that choice to get from IBM to what you're doing now?
Well, kind of like the way that I wanted to be the fighter pilot, and I didn't want to go to college. College was just a next, I can't sit around. My parents are like, you just can't hang out here. You got to do something. And so I filled out a bunch of music scholarships. Turns out, since playing the trumpet for 4th grade, it actually turned into something. I got a music scholarship to go to college. Wow. And so I went to school to become a musician because, that's what I needed to do, was to get out and do something. So I traveled halfway across the country to a place I'd never been and went to school in this little place in Iowa. And what I learned about myself was I didn't really want to do that. And thankfully, by grace of God, the internet came online about 3 years into that. And I'm like, thank you. Something I can actually think about, but no one knew what to do. And so staying in college wasn't going to work because there was no academics. There was only learning. Learning was anytime you used it when you weren't in class, because there were no classes to teach you marketing, business, internet, anything. In fact, we were putting the first computers in the internet on, in the building. So this was brand new for everybody. So I jumped out to go to the corporate world. So to answer your question, the corporate world was just another step on the process that I used as a tool to get to the knowledge and learning and aspects I wanted to get to, because I never wanted to do it in the first place. So I never planned to stay there. I was always looking for an exit. And in 2005, my uncle, who was a very cool guy, he was the business guy. He taught me more about the abundance and business and thought processes, and he constantly hammered me, dude, get out, get a franchise, do something. Don't just stay here, do something and do it do it in your own way. Well, when he died in 2005, that really set me back for a couple of years and trying to figure out when and where and how. And by the time I got to 2007, I'd met a wonderful lady and was getting remarried to somebody I knew was my, I'm going to say soulmate, if you will, and had experienced the negativity of a very bad relationship before that. And so when I saw all that happen, I knew so many things were changing and my mindset was changing. And I was thinking about, us getting married in 2007 in March and what that would be and all these things. And I decided that it was probably a great break at that point to not only marry her, of course, but to just, start something new together. And so I'd made up my mind it was time to leave IBM. Well, it turns out in June of 2007, they decided it was time for me to leave too. So they gave me an early retirement, and that was that. So I burned the boats and never went back. So that was a bit of divine intervention. But the end result was that I knew that was the right moment. So I never looked back. And it was just kind of that moment. It wasn't the easiest year either, because we found out we were pregnant, which was super awesome. but my wife went on bed rest, and she was a RN BSN by trade. And, between my severance and her income, we were doing okay to figure out the business startup. And then all of a sudden she's on bed rest and there's no income. So we went from, the high income dinks to now we're pregnant to, oh, now you don't have a job and neither do I. Oh, we have no income in our first year and we're pregnant. Yay. So I had my back against the wall a little bit to figure it out. And those first 2-3 years with babies and new life and everything was pretty challenging. I'll tell you what, it certainly wasn't the perfect time. In retrospect, there may have been better times to do it, but in the end, the perfect time literally is never going to happen. You just have to be willing to fail forward, figure it out, keep going, and simply don't look back. Don't look back on any idea that there's any guarantee. I thought you could stay with IBM for a long time and that might be guaranteed, but in actuality, it wasn't, was it? So there really wasn't any guarantee. What I had was the freedom of choice to empower myself to get out and do these things and just keep going no matter what. I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to be around my family more. I traveled 200 days in 2006 on an airplane. That sucks, man. I did not want to do that for the rest of my life, right? I didn't want to be separated from a family. I had a wife, I had a new baby. I'm like, no, I'm not giving this up. Like, this becomes my purpose now. And I fought for it for 18 years.
Wow. 2007, huge changes, leaving IBM,
Yeah,
getting married, and having, you said kids, was it twins?
First daughter. And then in the next 4 years, we had 3 more. So I had 4.5 kids under the age of 5, which was definitely a fun time, dude. It was a very fun time. It's good.
And then failing forward.
Failing forward through many different things. Yeah. We, things were going great. The business actually started to take off in a different way. I had a consulting thing, and from the consulting, because I needed to get more people on board, I had to do more business development. So I did more internet marketing and learned how to do that. And by 2008, I had 10 different, consultants working for me. But then by 2009, I discovered I was actually much better at the internet marketing thing than I was at the consulting side. So by 2010, I had no more consultants, and all I had was internet marketing and affiliate marketing, which I was doing very well on mobile devices of all things. And that did really well. I made a lot of money doing that. And the problem was I made enough money that I invested in a really great hopium idea that never went anywhere and ended up going bankrupt. And so I'm like, well, I know how to make money. I know how to do the internet marketing. How do I combine that, but then take away the risk of what I just, had? And it was like, well, put products together with that, like combine the whole thing, become a business owner, stop being an entrepreneur, be a business owner. And it sort of clicked. I have the product and, the marketing, and I put the two together. And that's how I figured my way into it.
I love it. I love what you just said there. Stop being an entrepreneur and become a business owner.
Yeah. Well, stop trying everything on with no expectation that you're going to, be with. That's flaky, right? Like, you're going to keep it going. Like, you start something, you keep going. Your challenge is to determine when the sunk cost fallacy kicks in. You've heard the sunk cost fallacy, right? That's the time, energy, attention, money at things you do until the point where you realize it's not serving you anymore. Now, the big difference is, and I was telling my 70-year-old daughter this morning, I said the difference between when you change that versus what you do next is the most critical decision that you will make next. And that is not to go from what didn't work that is no longer serving you and you need to change to something 180 degrees different. What you need to do is pivot like 90 degrees, not 180. It means you make a shift, but you stay in the same area. You do something different than you were doing before. You learn from that mistake and you change that one thing. You don't jump all the way over here. I see this from a lot of amateur people in the entrepreneurial mindset, is they keep shifting 180 degrees from one end to the other, and they're wasting so much time, energy, and money trying to start something completely brand new outside of their expertise, outside of their known, outside of what they believe they're capable of doing, because they think they need to stop the major failure that was here and go way over here, when in actuality, they needed to make a 2mm shift in what they were doing. Just a 2mm shift, just tweak it a little bit. And that's all I did. I just tweaked it a little bit. I didn't get on my lane. I just tweaked my lane. I didn't go from here and go out and start, building airplanes.
Right.
Right. I went and made a small shift in what I was doing, which had a ripple effect, a huge impact. That's where that sunk cost fallacy kicks in. We think we have to go from here to here because, well, this was terrible. We were validated. It didn't work. The guarantees, the crap, this, that, this person, me, this, whatever. It's like, oh, no, I can't do that. So you decide to go completely off the reservation. And I see that ending up causing a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs to stay either entrepreneurial or fail back to a job, right? Yep. Instead of pivoting forward and making that 2 millimeter shift and finding just what the next thing was just when they missed it, to stay in that fight a little longer, but change up the way they were doing it, maybe even the way they were thinking about it, they will win when others will quit. That is the biggest difference between success and failure. And I've watched a lot of people launch businesses and physical product businesses and failed out because of that one little thing. Yeah.
Amazing advice. That's kind of where I'm at right now with my entrepreneur. I'm always jumping from here to here and so many things that appear. I'm like, oh, I can do this really quick. I can do this really quick. Instead of trying to stay in one lane and making those small changes.
Make those small changes, one lane, that will allow you the opportunity to see what people really want from you so you can give them more of it in different ways, opening up multiple streams of revenue opportunity. That's really what you're kind of searching for when you switch that big of a difference, right? But you're staying sort of in a lane and a vertical you understand, but you're opening the multiple opportunities of revenue within it, right? And that will create you as a business owner. What does a business owner have? A business owner who's a millionaire has 7 streams of revenue, right?
Yep.
And the only way you get that is to stay within 7 streams and areas. Your network gets deeper, your understanding gets better, your market share gets greater, your processes and systems get easier. It takes less money to make more money when you figure out how to spend it correctly. It's a snowball of opportunity that grows. That's why I've been at this for 12 years. That's why I'll be at it for another 12 years, because products in our world aren't going to run out, man. No. The mechanisms are changing, but the products don't change. Like, it's the second oldest profession in the world behind, prostitution, which, I'm not really into.
No. Yeah, everybody has something new to buy, something new, shiny to what comes out.
Everybody needs something, man.
Every new year, Androids come out new every year.
Yeah.
6 months, so people want to buy something new.
Get that fixed. Or it's just the old stuff. Everybody needs something, right? You need pans to cook on. You need knives to cut with. You need, people need stuff, right? They launch kids. Those kids need more things, right? The need for products is an ongoing adventure. And the thing is, based on the price in the market, you change, you adapt, you pivot. Like, here's the thing, right? In 2020, most people didn't see it because they were over here kind of panicking. But over here, dealing with the day-to-day aspects of running a physical product business, multiple versions of them with millions of dollars moving, the cost per container of our product was like $3,800, $4,900 in 2019, the end, December. Okay, that little thing happened. You might have heard of it, right? So for 2020, in the first quarter, what happened was we got 10 years of growth in 3 months, right? Hyper growth situation. So what happened? Well, all the supply chain said, oh, we smell money. So the container went from $4,800 to $25,000 per container. Wow. So that hyper growth came with hyper growth costs. Now, we were able to sustain it because we had war chest, we had product in motion, we have an opportunity to stretch capital out farther because we had that. So we were able to stay in the game when a lot of people fell out. But when you fast forward to the last 8 months, there's that big T word that everybody's freaking out about. And it's caused a lot of sellers to panic, but we're just looking at it going, there's opportunity again. There's huge opportunity when those people are panicking to get in the market and take off. And we're swimming towards the upstream and everybody else is trying to go the other direction, right? And so this is creating this huge opportunity that most don't see right now. And it will close in about 12 months when everybody else catches up with it. And that's why I think that, there hasn't been a greater time since 2013 to get into this.
Excellent. So what kind of mindset does someone need to be able to succeed in this space?
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? My best operators follow a particular profile. So I have what's called a DISC assessment profile. Maybe you've heard of it. The DISC quadrant profile, and it's out there. It's an international thing. It's not the INFG, I feel good kind of stuff, or what's my favorite color. This is the, aptitude test for business. And based on whether you're an employee or non-employee, if you're an entrepreneur or whatever, those who take this usually end up helping me understand what kind of operator skill sets they have, whether they're higher in the dominant, they have more of an influencer's, attitude about things and a dream and a big picture kind of thing, or whether or not they're more stable and conscientious in terms of operations and stuff like that. So if anybody hasn't ever looked at the DISC profile, go check it out. So in terms of success, I typically see the ISC people with a moderate high D, meaning they're a better second follower and operator and executor than a primary leader in a business. Okay, they make a great COO. They don't make a great CEO. Now, they'll typically be my strongest. They have and mimic CEO capabilities, which is required for the vision. But once I give them the strategy, once I give them the overarching plan, and then show them how to execute it, that's where they're the best. So I have engineers and process people who do well with this. I have people who understand business tracks to success, like dentists who know that I got to go through this certification, train this stuff, and here's my practice. Here's the best practices for each of these things, right? So when people understand and they have that simple attitude and aptitude, then they typically become my more successful operators because they understand there's a process by which you become successful. There isn't an idea and a big picture vision that you randomly bump into, and that's what a high DI will think. Okay. Then the more ISC people will go, oh, I'll get there in a process. Why? Because that's how I became successful in what I'm doing now. Whether I became a successful W-2 employee who's grown up in my corporate track, or an entrepreneur or another business owner who's growing successfully through those processes, is because they understand there's a track and a step and a process by which they're able to get that done. And through that step and process and track, they will typically understand there's a playbook of activities they have to go through. And when they go through those activities, that's when they have their success with what I'm doing. So when I have them come and apply, I have them take a DISC assessment. And I'm going to find out who it is. And they will typically be problem solvers. They don't see problem as putting a brick on a wall in an imaginary wall where they're building mountains out of molehills. They will say, oh, get that out of my way, man. I'm going to solve that problem. I'll get that done. I'm going to get it done until it's done. They're tenacious. They're perseverant. They go through and they solve problems, right? And in some instances, if asked a big picture question, here's a problem we need to go solve, and it may create other problems, there's opportunity in that, and they'll see the way to go figure it out. They won't just look at it and go, oh, that's overwhelming. I don't even know where to start. They'll just dig in their heels and go after it. Those are my most successful operators. And they tend to get to a place where whatever we taught them, trained them, and ingrained and discipled into them, they start to adapt it, learn it, and do it in their own way out of their own success and take full ownership of that success. And then I don't hear from them as much. 2 or 3 months will go by and they'll pop up and they'll be like, hey, I have a question. I'll be like, sure, what's up? Because they're out doing it. Right. So again, is that clarifying to you, or did I say too much?
No, yeah, you got it. It's fantastic. I think everybody should take time and do the DISC assessment to figure out what's going to really fulfill their purpose and what they're going to like. Because if you're doing something you don't like doing, you're going to hate it. You're going to do less of it, and you're going to get distracted.
Yeah, if you don't find any fun in it, if you don't find any joy in it, I find the fun in the hunt of the products. I find the fun in figuring out what makes the people buy the product, because why are they passionate? What do they love about that? When that sort of starts to unclick and it starts to do what it does in the AI systems and the marketing kicks in and it starts to grow, that becomes boring. That's when the operators are like, hey, we're going to dial this in. We're going to tweak this. I'm like, great. That's killer. Yeah, that's amazing. I'll take your status call every week and then we'll make sure we're continuing to do more of that. For me, I'm like, okay, what's the next brand? What's the next product? Where's the next tweak? Where's the next thing? Because that's just me. So we fit that well into that groove. And that's where I actually met my partner 12 years ago. He's like that. He's an operational guy. He's a CFO, CEO guy. Does very well at that. Likes his processes, likes his spreadsheets, likes the way he does his things in order. For me, that feels extremely constrictive at times. For him, it's order out of chaos, right? For me, I'm in change. Let's break something. If I break something or change something, we'll figure out how to do it better. For him, it's like, you're blowing my mind up. Knock it off. Like, cut that out. But we're at two different halves of the brain. So we make one person. And, my wife and I have been married for 18 years and she's that. So she and him can get together and like, and I get together and it's like, there's this weird lot of conflict at times because we're such different people, right? We think very differently about a lot of things. And that's what that compromise, comes into. I understand things they don't. They understand things I don't. I'm the guy that jumps off of the bridge. They're the ones that have learned to put the backpack on and jump off with me and figure out how to build the parachute on the way down. They've learned that they can expand themselves through that process. And I've learned at times to hold myself back in that process because I listen to them like, you're right. I gotta slow down. I got to figure this out. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. I appreciate it. There's a good sounding board. We need that in our lives, right? And I've been that person for a lot of people in our client group. And so is my partner, because they don't always have somebody in their life to balance that out. They don't always have a spouse like mine who's literally been so supportive at every step. Honey, we'll figure it out. You got this. Do whatever you need. I'll handle the kids. Like, just get it done. I trust you. No worries. Like, that's been my life with my wife. And that is like a God-given sin. I don't have to fight her with anything we're doing in my world or business or whatever. She's my ally. She's my, she is a ride or die. I can fight the rest of the world because of her. And I don't have to conflict from her with that. And I know that ends up happening. And I had a marriage that was like that. And I know that it can be very difficult to service that. So sometimes we end up being that person for other people. to help them have that wall and that sounding group. And it really is true that you yoke yourself to the 5 people that are most successful in the area that you want to be successful in. That's what I've done. And over time, I have found those people. And with that, I am more successful because of them. I'm not the smartest guy in the room anymore. And I have very smart people around me that do very smart things all the time, right? And that's so cool to just let them go and let them do their thing, right? And I just do whatever's possible to knock barriers down. We need more capital. We need more sales. We need more revenue. We need more this. We need more money. We need more relationships. We need more business dev. We need problem solved. I just need to be a sounding board. I don't need you to answer and solve a problem. I just need to tell you the one I'm solving. I just need you to listen. Great. That's what I'm going to do. Like, it's just my job to go out there and be the battering ram and to give them anything they need to get it done.
Shout out to Mrs. Twa.
She is amazing, man. She's a godsend. I don't know how to do life without her. Honestly, she's been an ally, and I see that conflict in so many people. Spending money and doing this and we can't afford that or whatever. I mean, she's like, the car's being towed out of the garage. She's like, upset. And she cried. Of course, she has emotions. She's conscientious, but she's just like, you know what? We're going to figure this out.
Yeah. All in the first year of marriage.
Well, that didn't happen in the first year. The kids happened in the first year. In about the 7th, 8th year of marriage, we went bankrupt. Through that process. But yeah, She was still in the same. She's like, you know what? We're going to be just fine. You're going to figure it out. I trust you. I'm going to let it go. We're just going to get it done. And that's the way it's been. And anytime I ended up having to risk some money more to get going, put the first products on credit cards, figured it out. She's like, you'll get it done. You'll figure it out. You're a hard worker. You'll get it done. And that's, that encouragement without struggle has been something that has been very good for my mindset. To have her as a sounding board. We take 4-mile walks every day, literally together. And we have that 4-mile, hour and 15-minute walk every day together to just talk and be together before the kids take on life and other things go. And we head different directions for a good part of the day. We have that time together. And I would encourage anybody that if anxiety and concerns and depression is a part of your life, go take a walk. Activity will reduce those anxieties and depressions and concerns. A lot of clarity will come from physical activity. It's extremely important you do that. And if you're not doing that, then you're not releasing the right chemicals. You're not in the right coping mechanisms. You're not getting rid of the things that could be causing your mind's issue. You're being too stagnant, right? Too sedentary. And activity can remove a lot of that.
Great advice there for people that are going through that. Take the time, movement to get them the blood flowing. They're out of the norm. And yeah, thanks for
get
that.
Moving. Do something.
And then going back to your teamwork is not having somebody in your team that does what you do, that is kind of almost your opposite, to be able to grow and scale and move forward and progress so much faster.
Yeah, because we're not so much alike that nothing gets done.
Exactly.
Right? I do the things I need to do because I know they need to be done, and I know that he can't do them. And he does the things that he needs to do because he likes to have them done. And I don't really want to know every detail about it. I trust him. At this point, everything's implicit. Everything's open. We make certain decisions. If he needs me to make a certain decision he's not comfortable with, then he brings it to me. And I'm just like, this is what we're doing. Right? Positive or negative, this is what we're doing. If it's not exactly the right decision, we'll pivot past it whenever the time comes. And we've learned to grow in that. And it's been a positive and negative experience. He's like my work wife now, and love him to death, love his wife and kids. And in fact, his son, who we trained from the age of 16, who is now 26, 27 years old, he runs our entire operations division. He has been trained since 16 to learn the business, do the business, operate the business. And he actually runs our operations team now.
Amazing. Shout out to your partner.
Yeah.
You've given so much advice here to people. I appreciate that so much. One more word of advice that you would give to somebody that's starting, just to get started in being their own business owner, what would you say to that?
I would say your opportunity begins at the end of your excuses.
Opportunity begins at the end of your excuses.
If you're afraid to fail, you're not going to find out whether or not you failed until you try. And if you try, then if it doesn't go right, that's not a failure. That's a learning mechanism. Use it to pivot and adapt your experience. When that experience comes, you'll know the better things to do. And that's the gap between that and wisdom. You don't just jump to wisdom. If you're going to get started, get started. Don't expect guarantees. There is no guarantee. Don't expect anyone is going to do the work for you. That's a huge mistake a lot of people do. Well, I'll just hire somebody who knows how to do that. No, you need to know enough about it to be dangerous before you can hire somebody that should be doing the right work. And there's a mistake a lot of amateurs make. So any excuse you're making to get going is just an excuse of either fear of failure or a fear of success. And guess what, dude? Most of the time it's a fear of success because the success requires change. Failure is a comfortable place that I can step on and say, yep, I failed. I didn't do so great. Look what happened. This guy did this to me. I bought that course. I took this thing. I asked this mentor. It didn't work out. And look what happened. They, didn't do it to me. You'll commiserate because failure is easier to commiserate and doesn't have as much accountability as success. Success requires accountability. It requires growth. It requires change. It requires more capital for what's working. It requires new risk levels that get you out of your comfort zone. So a lot of people are actually afraid of success. And that's why you got to get out of your excuses, because when success comes, when you figure it out, you will do anything necessary legally, ethically, and morally to make it grow.
You learn so much more failing forward than you do trying to learn.
You'll fail.
Beforehand. Yeah.
Fail. Just expect it.
Yeah.
It is expected that you're going to fail parts of the process. The only complete failure is your lack of continuation when you reach the first obstacles.
Neil, this has been incredibly eye-opening. Thank you for breaking it down the
My
way
pleasure.
that's both strategic and practical. For everyone listening, go check out Neil's book, Almost Automated Income with FBA, and learn more at voltagedm.com. And if you're thinking about launching your own brand or just want a business that runs while you sleep, this might be the spark that you've been waiting for. Thank you, Neil Twa. Where can people find you?
VoltageDM.com. Yeah, I got my 3-letter last name. It is Twa, for those of you who wondered. And if this is on a video, clearly I'm not a small Asian dude. But you can go Google my last name and you won't miss me. I'm out there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And then don't forget there will be a code, the connector, at his website to get a book for the first 10 people. Drop a comment, give us a like, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much. Catch this next podcast where you can start your dreams and start to own your time the way these other guests have.